If you feel something strange in your eye, it's usually not an emergency. But what if that something is moving? Hey guys, thanks for joining our channel. Today, we'll talk about a very interesting story about a woman who thought she had a stray eyelash, but later found out she had 14 worms living in her eye. Make sure to watch the whole video, because it will be very interesting. Let's get started. Abby Beckley, a woman from Oregon, was taken aback when she discovered that what she had thought was a stray lash in her left eye was actually a parasitic worm, and the events that followed would leave doctors perplexed. Beckley, who was 26 years old, was unquestionably the type of person who thrived in the great outdoors. Her enthusiasm for activities such as horseback riding and fishing complemented a can-do attitude and a thirst for adventure. Beckley had also lived on a cattle ranch in South Oregon and aspired to find work in another country. Beckley found it impossible to turn down the opportunity to work as a deckhand on a fishing boat in southeast Alaska during the summer of 2016. However, during her second week in her new role, Beckley began to experience discomfort in her left eye. The irritation caused her eyelid to droop, and her eye became red and tingly. Beckley initially thought that a stray eyelash had become caught in her eye, but when she began experiencing migraines, she became increasingly concerned about the condition. In an interview with National Geographic in February 2018, she described the sensation as feeling like an eyelash poking you. The symptoms persisted as she continued to work at sea, but after 5 days of discomfort, Beckley decided to remove whatever was causing her such distress. So one morning I woke up and I was like, if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to get whatever the hell is in my eye out of there, she recalled. She extracted a clear white worm that was approximately ½ an inch in length and the same width as a strand of hair. It wriggled around for a few moments before expiring on her index finger. In all candor, she was following the discovery of something that made her feel sick to her stomach. She expressed her astonishment and actual disbelief to People magazine in February 2018, saying, "I couldn't believe what I had just seen." After failing to find any information online, Beckley sought assistance from a co-worker. The two friends assumed that the slimy critter was a salmon worm. However, after a doctor in Craig, Alaska, reacted with shock when Beckley showed him 3 more worms that she'd taken from here, she was no longer sure when she returned to Oregon. Beckley was provided with additional medical counseling. Some of the doctors that she consulted were initially skeptical of her story. She said, "At that point, I could feel them. I felt one come to the surface of my eye, and I said, 'Oh my God, you need to look.'" They saw the worm crawling over Beckley's eyeball, and they had no choice but to believe her. Beckley stated that they checked and were simply stunned, and that 14 worms were extracted from the odd host's left eye over the next 3 weeks. Because of this, it was a trying time for Beckley, and she spent a lot of time at home preoccupied with the critters living in her head. She said, "It was really difficult for me to do anything because I was distracted by the worms living in my head." The experience was difficult for Beckley, and she experienced a low emotional state during this time. During this time, she found herself wondering whether the worms would travel to her brain or even cause blindness or paralysis in her face. None of the scientists at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, subsequently diagnosed Beckley with illogical OSA, a kind of AI that was more typically present in cattle in the northern United States. Beckley was discovered to have the disease. It was the first time that a human had been found to be infected with the extremely rare parasite. Eye worms are transmitted from one host to another by flies that are attracted to the tears that are secreted by animals such as cows, horses, and dogs. Beckley's eye would have become infected after one of these flies vomited in it, according to the doctors, who told her that. In addition, these professionals in the medical field were taken aback by Beckley's experience. Assistant Professor of Infectious Diseases at Oregon Health and Science University, Dr. Aaron Boonora, was a member of the team that treated patients. Coin 6 was told by Beckley that it is possible to get a parasitic infection in the eye, but in most cases, the patient will have had some contact with a developing country. Beckley's case was the subject of an investigation that was led by Richard Bradbury of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. That investigation resulted in a report that was subsequently published in the American Journal of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene. Only after consulting a 1928 German research paper was he able to confirm the true identity of this particular species of our mice. The logical OSA is now documented as the third type of mollusca worm to ever be found in a human eye. Thankfully, Beckley felt better as soon as the final critter was removed from her eye. Apart from developing an understandable aversion to flies, she has suffered no discernible long-term effects. Part of the reason I'm speaking out is that I had wished I could find one article or source that would reassure me this happened to someone else, and they are fine. She said it in an interview with CNN. If this does happen again, I'm going to make sure that no one else has to go through what I went through. That was the end of the story. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.